Scholar Skills is proud to present HOTDocs, higher ordered thinking through documents. HOTDocs improves critical thinking, reading comprehension, and academic writing skills through an interactive guided analysis of primary source documents. It is the only completely document-based interdisciplinary curriculum that helps students to think critically and to read and write effectively. It is also aligned with the Common Core state standards in social studies and English language arts. What documents are contained in this book? Well, we begin with the Magna Carta and the Mayflower Compact, Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, Federalist 10, Federalist 51, the Bill of Rights, and finally the Preamble and the Constitution. While other documents may have made the cut, we consider these 10 documents the most transformational documents in American history, up to, obviously, the writing of the Constitution. Now, how do the students actually use these documents? Well, let's take a look at the Magna Carta, okay? And you see the actual document there, the original document, in its original text, okay? Kind of just fast forward through this, and then there are exercises that are really taxonomic. So you have the knowledge level exercise, where students get to know the document by answering comprehension questions through basic research, like who, when, where, and why. In exercise 2, they get to summarize the document by, again, answering some of these questions about it. Exercise 3, the students get to make inferences about the document and their hints. So, for example, in this exercise, students would agree or disagree with each of the following statements. A man's property rights are extremely important. And then they would check sections 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6 to find the answers to that. So you see the students are constantly being referred back to the document. Then there are enduring themes, where the student writes about the document's impact through history and its continuing relevance. Then we have the Mayflower Compact. And this document, again, is there in its original form, and yet with some accessibility. Not the original difficult English, but some accessibility. This is a good rendering of that document. And part 1, again, we have the knowledge-based questions, the who, when, where, why. Part 2 is a comprehension level, where students are led into an understanding and decoding the document through vocabulary and context. And what do we mean by that? See, each of the words or phrases in the word list below are synonyms of at least one of the words or phrases that have been highlighted in the document. And then on a separate sheet of paper, the students will actually write out each of the bold printed words or phrases, and then go back to the document and find that particular phrase. So, to please God, establish, for the sake of order, peace, and safety. These are all the paraphrased versions of really important statements and vocabulary terms in the document. And so the student would go back to the document and match the paraphrased term with the actual term rendered in the document. So an example here for the Mayflower Compact is it begins with, "In the name of God, Amen." Well, that would really match or be defined by the phrase, "to please and bring glory to God." So that's one way of the student interacting with difficult text, and yet with some accessibility, using paraphrases to match the actual terminology in the document. Now, after the student has done that, he can actually reread the document and substitute each of the highlighted words or phrases with the synonymous terms or phrases that we have paraphrased for him or her. Now, we go back to the document, and the student actually, without looking back now, uses his or her memory, to check their document vocabulary. Can they fill in these blanks in the right places? The actual terminology of the document. Exercise 3. Now here comes a real challenge for students, where they have to match paraphrase statements with actual phrases and words taken from the document. So where it says, "We promise to obey the laws that we create," the students would go back to the document and perhaps find the phrase, onto which we promise all due submission. So you see, they're interacting with the document from their own language back to the document's language. Exercise 4, reading comprehension questions, where they would have to answer questions in complete sentences by referring to the document. All of this is great training for document-based questions, which students see on exams, standardized tests constantly. And this gives you, the teacher, a chance to really go through these questions with the students, or for them to discuss them in small groups. Why do they think it's necessary to create such laws? Why do they promise to obey the laws? All great questions. Exercise 5, the student now has to make inferences. And so they would have to explain whether the authors of the document would agree or disagree with each of the following statements. And then they would cite text from the document as evidence to support their answer. So number 2 says, we are planting this colony because it will make us rich. Well, obviously that was not the case in Plymouth. It was the case perhaps in Jamestown, and a student would have to say, well, I disagree with that, and here's what the document actually says to substantiate my thinking. So there are several ways for the student to agree or disagree with those inferences. Exercise 6, academic writing, responding to arguments. Well, here's a writing prompt. The Mayflower Compact is an old, outdated document that has had absolutely no impact in our society. Well, you see, with that in mind, the student would then go back to the document and explain whether he or she agrees or disagrees with this opinion, but supporting their response with sound reasoning from the document. Finally, enduring themes, which allows a student to write about the document's relevance, or its attachment, rather, its connection through history. So this question says, how does the Mayflower Compact reflect the ideals and principles of the Magna Carta? So you see, each document is connected to the other in terms of the ideas and concepts that are repeated in each document. And finally, in the Mayflower exercise, the student gets to summarize the document, taking all that he or she has learned and writing about it in a coherent paragraph or a one-page essay. So these are great ways then to familiarize your student with the document and to make it accessible. You don't have to use all of these exercises depending on the time you have. You can make it a multi-day lesson, or you can simply make it one lesson by focusing on just a few of these exercises and maybe assigning some for homework or a long-term project. And there it is, give me liberty or give me death. And we go through the document and we see now that all of the book is here. Each document really having some of the same questions or exercises as is pertinent to that document. And so this is what HOTDocs is all about, higher order thinking through documents. And it allows students to reason and to write effectively from primary source documents. I think it'll be a great benefit to your students, whether they're taking the advanced placement classes in American history, or whether they're in elementary and they're just becoming familiar with the document. Even the Declaration of Independence, for example, gives students some accessibility even in the earliest grades. Here's the entire document. But in this part of the document, you will see that the students are then being asked to paraphrase, to take these statements and to put them back into the document. And students as early as 4th grade can define these terms and then match them up to the key terms in the Declaration of Independence. So I think you'll find it a great benefit. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to working with you as you help your students to get a love for American history through primary source documents.